preface to this first full episode of Colon Meet Cancer, I want to say to the nice people who work at the Tesla factory in Fremont, California, and who made my Model Y, it is shiny, it is sparkling, clean, and properly detailed. So, as you know, I have just been diagnosed with colon cancer, and shortly it will be removed, along with the ascending colon and the cecum that connects the colon to the small intestine, otherwise known as the ileum. And that'll be that. Or it won't. I may need to start chemotherapy, and that's not a possibility I'm looking forward to. So it is not unlikely that this is the start of a new journey for me, for my spouse Eric, my family, my friends, and for my work. I'm asking if this is an appropriate subject for a podcast. I would welcome your thoughts. Leave them below. But my thoughts are that I don't really know, because this is not just about me. It affects Eric. It affects a lot of people close to me. Do they want me blithering on about whether I made it to the loo or not? But I thought I'd give it a go, because it is so immensely personal a matter. And the obvious reaction is not to talk about all that goes on down there and what comes out of down there, because nobody wants to know. And if they do want to know, well, they shouldn't really be so prurient. But it's the stigma and discrimination, whether from ourselves or from others. And stigma and discrimination has always been important to me as an old dinosaur AIDS activist. You know, building community in the hope that we can be more comfortable talking about what ails us, and then demand and then make better treatment decisions. That's what it's all about. And that's really important for colon cancer too, because diagnoses of this cancer are on the increase, especially in the young, which of course I include myself in, although realistically, let's face it, it's about people getting help, getting the treatment they need as soon as possible, without shame and with confidence, which is a bit rich coming from me, as I carry a lot of shame and a lack of confidence, particularly when it comes to everything down there. I want to give a shout out, of course, to Crohn's disease, which, along with its evil twin sister, ulcerative colitis, is an inflammatory bowel disease quite different from the irritable bowel syndrome that everybody suffers from these days. It is primarily inflammation of the gastrointestinal GI tract, but it can be found anywhere from your mouth to your anus. I was diagnosed when I was 18, although I likely had it for quite a few years before that, before or potentially even during puberty. Indeed, my father is convinced that it stunted my growth and is the cause of what he considers to be my little legs. Thank you, Father. But the point here is that people with Crohn's disease and who've had it for over 8 years are at a significantly higher risk of colon cancer than the general population. So folks like me, we get regular checkups, colonoscopies, to assess how much inflammation there is inside us and to see what other bits and pieces the gastroenterologists might find, like polyps, that sound cute but aren't. So good news, you can catch it early. Bad news, you're more likely to find something. I've been meaning to do a Shot in the Arm podcast special on inflammatory bowel disease because there is so much innovation happening, both in our understanding of the condition and potential new therapies, which I think is surprising because for so long there really wasn't anything at all. I even recently discovered that the name Crohn's disease is controversial. Dr. Crohn apparently did not discover it. 2 others did. The first one being Oppenheimer, not that one. And Ginsburg, not that one either. And apparently they share that honour. So, with all of that, back to the 22nd of May 2025, it's annual colonoscopy day, and I'm lying on a table waiting for the GI doctor. I've spent the last 24 hours prepping with some foul, soapy testing liquid that clears everything from my mouth to my anus. It's got better over the years. It's no longer the gag and spew it across the kitchen as I used to. It's been no food for the last 24 hours. And for the last few hours, absolutely nothing at all, leaving my teeth dry and oddly furry. So I'm on my back, staring at a relaxing photo placed on the ceiling, and it's of a beach and a palm tree. Except I think that it must have been what Bikini Atoll was like seconds before the detonation of Gilda, the first atomic bomb at the start of Operation Crossroads. Then the medical team comes in and knock the US healthcare as much as you like, but you can't fault the efficiency of Kaiser Permanente's nursing staff. They get me to lie on my side, put a needle into my arm, and then the highlight of any colonoscopy, they give me the good stuff. Now, it's a sedative. It's not an anesthetic. And they say it won't knock you out, but it usually does. One colonoscopy a few years ago, it didn't completely send me to sleep. And I was in a sort of a high as a kite Disney ride, able to see inside my colon. And it was multicolor and oddly fascinating. This time, as I'm injected, I can feel it. And I try to say so. And I think I get as far as saying, "Oh, yeah." That's embarrassing. Next, and I'm in a recovery room with Eric, my spouse, and the GI doctor. And I'm not with it at all. And the GI doctor, well, she has to keep prodding me to stop me from going back to sleep, which is pretty annoying, frankly. She's trying to tell me something, and I couldn't tell you what it is, so thank God Eric is there. But I do notice that she looks concerned. Actually, she looks a bit emotional. But I, of course, now that I'm waking up, have got other priorities to focus on. The 2 McDonald's cheeseburgers that I'm going to have as my first meal after the procedure. Don't knock it. But all credit to my GI doctor. She keeps on poking me, and she gets me to realize, A, they found a tumor, an ulcerated mass in the ascending colon near the cecum, which connects to the ileum, which is where Crohn's is often found. And B, they have tattooed the area because they are referring me to a surgeon who will talk about removing the damn thing. Of course, I focus on the tattoo bit because I've never had one before, and it immediately strikes me that it's strange that it should be on the inside where no one can see it. I'm also being referred to getting a CT scan to see if the cancer has spread beyond the cecum and into the ileum. And then I remember that I need to make a pitch to the team to subscribe to a Shot in the Arm podcast. I mean, hey, it's a captive audience. These are my peeps. I don't remember whether I need to tell them to give me 5 stars wherever they download the audio podcast and to visit our YouTube channel, like it, smash that notification button. Now, again, I don't know if I actually say it, but I do remember feeling that it's good that I can remember that call to action by rote. Next thing I know, I'm being wheeled out to the front of the hospital, and Eric, my spouse, is there with the car to take me first to McDonald's to get my cheeseburgers and then home. Eric is quiet, and I'm only quiet, of course, because I'm still high, although I can feel some discomfort. But that's always the case because they inflate your insides with air so they can see what's going on. But I am relieved that the procedure is over for another year, and I'm therefore upbeat. And that's the way it goes for Eric and me for the course of the next week. I get the CT scan, which reveals that there is no further cancer in the ileum, which is a relief. And I get labs done on the functioning of my liver and my kidneys, and they're doing just fine. Although both the doctor, the notes, and the technicians say don't read too much into this, they aren't necessarily as efficiently clear-cut and obvious as you first might expect. But even so, I say to myself and to Eric that we must slow down, people. There's nothing there. And then the GI doctor rings. Eric joins me and we put her on the iPhone speaker and she says, "No, people, we must speed up. The biopsies have come back. It's cancer. Call the surgeon to get an appointment as soon as you can." In fact, the surgeon's office calls me as soon as we hang up, which strikes me as a bit presumptuous for an ulcerated mass next to the cecum which hasn't spread or which hasn't damaged my liver or kidneys. And they offer me a time precisely when I'm supposed to be in the air en route to Cambodia. And that's part of a fascinating collaboration with the Chinese AIDS activist and reborn pharmaceutical entrepreneur Thomas Kai. Well, I have to put my travel back 24 hours. Thomas very kindly organizes it. And anyway, fast forward to the surgeon. And this is where my sense of optimism may be slightly misplaced. Because this thing and the ascending colon and the cecum on either side of it sort of have to come out now. And the earliest that coming out now can be really is as soon as possible. Well, and it's not possible because I'll be in Cambodia. So I can't believe it. I'm negotiating with the surgeon on a date and we compromise on 2 days after I get back from Cambodia. So alles gut. It's not possible to determine what stage cancer I have at this stage, although he says, alleluia, it isn't the most serious stage 4 where it's everything everywhere all at once. And we don't know if you're going to need chemotherapy until the oncologist has taken a look at the tumor that they remove. But it's just a day procedure, right? I ask. I seem to recall my GI doctor suggesting that miracles can be worked these days and I can be home. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Well, no, it's inpatient and probably 3 to 4 nights. They have to be sure that the sewing up of the ileum to the transverse colon, the bit of the colon at the top after they've got rid of the ascending colon, well, that the connection is secure and it's not going to leak. It's not a hose, I think, but then I correct myself. It is actually a bit like a hose if you stop to think about it. Of course, there's another 48 hours of fasting and soapy elimination will be required of me to remove everything from inside me. And I have to take a course of antibiotics. Worse still, I'm required to show up at 5:45 a.m. of the day of the procedure. I mean, it's like winning the lottery or being summoned. Now, it may strike you, and perhaps it strikes myself, that I'm being a bit blasé and I'm not taking this seriously enough. But that may be because I can't face the alternative. I don't know what to make of it all. I think I'm being sincere in my response, and I think it's important to say that. It may not last, but I'm thinking to myself, let me enjoy this moment. I am feeling somewhat removed, a sort of out-of-Ben experience. This is interesting. I've always wondered how people respond to major life-threatening diagnoses. I mean, I've worked in HIV all my life, and I've had a couple of narrow escapes myself. And you'd know that if you subscribe to Business Fights AIDS podcast, like it and give it 5 stars. But I've never taken myself, or my health for that matter, too seriously. There was that time in the summer of 2000 where I had a month in London before starting work at UNAIDS in Geneva, and I had nothing to do. So I went to the gym every day, and I got myself a trainer, and I ate egg whites. And at the end of that month, I've got to say, I was very disappointed that the end result really wasn't any different. So I decided not to bother again. And so while I don't take perhaps my health or myself seriously, I do take my work and my vocation, as it were, very seriously. And so I'm wondering also whether this experience could help me further my understanding of what the bloody hell I can do, if anything, to support the next phase of the global AIDS response now that we're in 2025 and everything is tits to arse up on its face. But to face my own mortality, the increasing in and out visits to clinics, to labs, to hospitals, perhaps a future of more physical pain, and of worrying about how much of a future Eric and I actually have to share. Well, perhaps these are just too serious a set of issues that I can handle now. And anyway, what actually could I do about them? Negotiate with this ulcerated mass and say, look, I'll let you do this damage to me over that period of time if you let me have this experience, read that new novel from Margaret Atwood, and have these years with Eric, that final career opportunity, but most importantly, these years with Eric. Maybe if I'm being honest, I've known something wasn't right for about a year. I thought I was experiencing Crohn symptoms, and as well as having to go to the lavatory without any preparation or basically, if your intestine calls, you go. But I could also sense that the raw fatigue and the pain that came from this chronic diarrhea, and I was having less and less control of holding on until I could find a lavatory, I knew something wasn't quite right. And yet my regular blood tests were showing that the inflammation that underpins Crohn's disease was really well under control. At the end of April, I think it was the end of April 2025, I was driving into San Francisco. And as I crossed the Bay Bridge in my car, I realized that I couldn't control my bowels, that I couldn't wait until I got to the venue I was going to. I'm sorry if this is too much information. So I literally started shitting myself. Now, I was attending an event at a hotel in San Francisco's Embarcadero, right next to the Bay Bridge. And I was able to pull into its underground car park. But I found, how shall I put this, that I hadn't finished. So I crawled into the back seat. I struggled to set out a blanket that we keep for the dogs, and I put it underneath me. And I'm embarrassed to say that I had no control. I'm also embarrassed to say that the car I was in was my Tesla Model Y, which I still have 5 months lease on. And because of that arse doge, consultancy opportunities in global health have really to a large degree dried up. And I can't afford to get rid of the damn thing. And while it would give me no greater pleasure than crapping all over Elon Musk for all the shit he has caused global health over the last few months, I wouldn't have expected it to be so literal. There we are. So, with Taco Donnie and Elmo splitting up in such spectacular fashion as I'm trying to record this podcast before I go to the surgeon, it seems to be a pretty good place to call it a day on this particular ramble. Thanks for being on the journey with me. Oh, before I go, my t-shirt. I'm wearing a t-shirt with a design of the Austin Maxi, which is a 1970s large British hatchback, almost a people carrier. And I loathed it. Could do a whole new podcast, whole separate podcast on the Austin Maxi, but my father loved it. So here we are, the Austin Maxi. Cheers, everyone.